Okay, so this is Huawei P10, P20, P30 and P40. And I think it's about time we do a little bit camera comparison. So, as you know, I am a big fan of Huawei's, especially its vanilla models. I don't like Pro models because they are way too big for me, and most of them come with periscope cameras that shoot 5 times zoom or more, and that for me is disadvantage because I like to shoot portraits, and for me, for the portraits, the best camera is the 3x camera that's on P40 and P30. But yeah, since I got these guys laying at home, I think it's the time we do a little bit comparison of how Huawei upgraded its camera from 2017, 18, 19 to 20. I unfortunately haven't tried P50 because it's not widely available in Europe, and stores that do sell it are selling for crazy prices. So yeah, not for me. Okay, let's start with the first one. First we have Huawei P10. As you can see, it has a dual camera setup. It is the only of all 4 phones that cameras are next to it. You can see all others have cameras above and below each other. Main sensor was 12 megapixels, f2.2, so really sharp sensor. And the secondary is 20 megapixels, black and white. The main sensor has optical image stabilization, and the maximum recording quality was 4K 30 FPS. P20, 12 megapixels, but f1.8, so it collects a lot more light than this one. And the secondary camera, also 20 megapixel black and white sensor, also has optical image stabilization on main sensor. P30 is the only out of these 4 phones that doesn't have optical image stabilization on its main camera, but honestly, in all the usage I do with these phones, the P30 is my favorite. So yeah, it is the first phone that uses a red, yellow, blue sensor. It is the sensor that collects way more light than the other RGB sensors. It has 40 megapixel, binding it to 10 megapixel photos, so 4-in-1 binding. And it is big sensor. It's 1 over 1.7, so almost 1/3 bigger than this one, these two. And it also is the first Huawei's phone that has a secondary camera for zoom, and the third one for ultra wide. So the P12 Pro had the zoom one, but it didn't have ultra wide. And the ultra wide camera is great. It's, I believe, 20 megapixels with autofocus, so great for any and all kind of shootings. The last one, but definitely not least, it's P40. It has 50 megapixel prime camera that binds to 12 megapixel photos. It is the biggest sensor out of all of this. It's 1 over 1.28, so it's very big sensor with optical image stabilization and also red, yellow, blue configuration of pixels. So this is a beast for low light photography. And the telephoto camera is 8 megapixels, same as on P30, same specs and everything, and it has 16 megapixel ultra wide camera. This is the first Huawei that was able to shoot 4K 60 videos, but Huawei was never some miraculous video shooter. But let's say P40 Pro does have one of the best videos out there, but not vanilla devices. So yeah, great phones. Each one was a champion of photography in its year, and you can still use any of them today, and you will get decent photos in all video conditions. Now, I took some shots on all of them, and now I will switch to my PC to compare them, to analyze them, and to see how did they evolve during the year. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, it has every sample has 4 photos for P10, P20, P30, P40. And let's do some comparison. Okay. So this is the first photo. It's early in the morning. As you can see, the sun is rising above my neighbor's house. And the f2.2 in P10, it's really sharp. So you get some sharp lines, but the sensor size and the processor doesn't allow it to process this photo as it should. And you can see that the highlights are kind of blow out and shaders kind of lost all details. Okay, P20, much better highlight management. Bit artifacts here on edges. P30, I'd say a very balanced processing of highlights, bit of them lost here, but better preservation of shadows. And the last and probably the best, P40. So P40 and P30 have very similar way they process photos, but you can see how sky is kind of way too bluish on P40. And let's say this part here, this is not the color the sky was, and this is not the color how this is. So I don't like that algorithm that kind of post-processes photos on P40 series. That is the main reason why I'm not using those phones anymore, why I stuck to the P30 that gives me great image quality and it doesn't post-process. Okay, let's go to the photo number 2. So here is kind of similar situation, highlights in the background. I took this mostly to see how it will render the sky and the rooftops, and you can see it's kind of expected P10 worse than P20 with some again weird artifacts, bit over sharpening. P30 for me still the best in processing and not over processing photo, and then again P40 with the greatest details, most preserved shadows, and again unrealistic sky color. That's really annoying, especially for me. Most of the people will like how it does this, but I like reality. Okay, let's go see photo number 3. You can immediately see again sky is kind of anime looking like on P40. P10 good enough details, sharp, but you can see its age a bit. P20 again over sharpening everywhere, but decent image quality. And P30 is, well, it's very similar to P20 actually. It does do shadows a bit better here, and the details are more preserved. Let's see a bit here. Yeah, better shadow management of P30. And P40, best details, but again, as I said, very unrealistic sky color. Okay, photo number 4. So this is looking at Sveti Duja's church, and P10 kind of does over contrast it a bit, and you can see how the details at sky look at the sea kind of look weird, and all the trees are kind of mushy together. You can't really separate them, and yeah, it kind of did okay exposure wise on highlights. P20 it's almost worse here. It underexposed buildings, it underexposed everything actually. So yeah, P20 is worst here. When you compare P30 to the rest of them, a bit sharper. You can see here, a bit better details in trees. And P40 again, those mountains are not blue, and this sky was not this blue, but okay. But best details overall, no comparison. I mean, Look, let me see, these two palm trees here, and here, and here, and here. Okay, let's just a second. Yeah, so as you can see, best details on P40, but I kind of prefer P30 sharpness here. I don't know. I'm just a P30 fanboy. Ignore me. Okay, another one. Okay, so this is actually a nice shot on all of them. P20 kind of lost some of its detail here, highlights, as you can see. P40 did, again, its thing. But yeah, great shots on all of them. I think that whoever you send these photos to will be very, very impressed. Of course, level of details is still best on P40. Look, okay, let's look here on this big logo. So yeah, sharper, more contrasty than, let's say, P30. Next one, let's see this sign here. So again, I had to say, it looks to me as if P10 did a better job than P20 in overall exposition of photo. P30 and P40 definitely better details than other two phones. But yeah, look how this image looks very, very weird on P20. Okay, so I would say that color is more realistic on P30 than any other one. But you can see also how P30 is kind of not as sharp at the edges, especially as P40. But yeah, that is one thing I'm ready to compromise to get realistic colors. Okay, this one was a bit of miss because perspective is not the same on all photos. But again, you can see how P10 actually does it somewhat better than P20. Then of course P30, and for the last, again, P40 for the best exposure. And you can see how image sensor size differ here. You can see how P50 has the most bokeh blue, natural blue in a background because of how big sensor is. Then P30, P20, and P10. Okay, this is a hard photo for any photo because it's a lot of highlights from background, and you can see how the highlights are lost in P10. No details whatsoever. P20, same actually as P10. Not much more details, maybe more details here in shadows preserved. And P30, P40 actually very similar. Not much difference whatsoever. Let's check the shadows. Okay, you can see how P10 and P20 have much shadow noise here, and P30 and P40 have almost none, but exposure is better on P30 than it's on P40. So yeah. And this is one at low light, and again highlights are very strong in the background, and you can see how it is completely lost on P10 and P20 especially, because look how blown out it is. Here you can see at least part of this wall, and here you cannot see it at all at P20. Floor, the same thing. So P10 again better than basic P20. And when you check P30 and P40, P30 does have some details lost here, but not as much as here, or especially here and here as well. P40 manages to keep all the details here, but it did something very strange to the color of the car. It kind of overexposed it, and it just looks kind of unnatural to me. It's much better on other phones. For me, P30's photo is here still the best. Okay, this is where I tried aperture mode. I just wanted to see how good separation works, and it works very well actually on all four of them. You can see how good separation is on any phone. It basically does not miss. However, P30 and P40 do control highlights better. You can see it here on the background. and here. And also here how a bit blown out on P10 and P20. So this one is the black and white simulation where P10 and P20 have black and white sensors and P30 and P40 don't. And for me the best image is kinda on P20. It just kinda looks more appealing to me than any other phone, whereas P10 it's kinda blown out here, and P30 and P40 do simulate black and white monochromatic shooting very nice. The last photo is where I have turned on HDR mode on all four phones to see the difference, and P20 is controlling the highlights good, but shadows are terrible. P10 it's kinda okay on both fronts, so is P30, and the P40 is best. It controls best this shadow. Look at here at all the branches and look at the highlights. So yeah, to conclude, these are all great phones, and you can see how Huawei took baby steps from all generations to the next one, so it doesn't very overshadow the last generation before it. But yeah, my favorite still Huawei P30. Still going to use it as my daily driver because it has all the camera versatility you can use. It has great pro mode, and it doesn't have aggressive algorithms that over-processes photos so that they look like this. Come on, this is not real. That's it for me for today. Thank you for staying till the end of the video. If you like it, please like it and subscribe to the channel for additional content like this.